Merry Christmas, everybody!
Happy holidays!
Your nightmare has arrived. We are going to be talking about the holidays right now. And my personal nightmare has arrived because I am wearing an ugly Christmas sweater in front of 300 people, which is not my personal taste.
I personally disagree. I feel very comfortable in this vest, and the bear agrees with me.
You look amazing. Well, we hope we haven't given you too much anxiety about the holidays, but what we do want to do is talk to you about a new way to connect with consumers that is probably something that you haven't done before. And it is new, it is easy, it is really quick, it's really important, and it's really effective. So that tool is through the use of AR. And so what we're going to do is walk you through a case study that Oath did with the Home Depot this past holiday season. And then we're going to also talk to you about some ways that we see AR being integrated into the future of advertising. But before we do, we thought it was important for everybody to just really understand what AR is. And I know that it was talked a little bit in the Facebook session, but just for everybody's awareness, AR, or augmented reality, is about using technology and bringing an illusion and bringing a world to you. And it's not to be confused with virtual reality, which is really more about bringing you into a whole new world. And there's 3 reasons why we really care about AR, and why we're talking about it today. The very first is it's an additional and interesting way to connect with consumers. And as digital marketers, we are all looking for that unique white space, and this is today that unique white space. The second reason is it's more engaging and it's an enjoyable interaction that actually improves consumer satisfaction. And the reason why it does is because it's multi-sensory. It reduces buyers' risk because it helps them see and visualize what a product actually looks like in the environment that they're going to be putting it in. And it creates a stronger emotional connection because it feels more real and it's actually really fun. And if that's not enough, think about this. There are going to be 1 billion AR users within the next 2 years. And that is 1 out of every 7 in the global population. Crazy, right? So if you'll jump to the next one. So really, AR is only one of the technologies that is affecting this new world in which brands are interacting with consumers. And there's several other factors that are going to be influencing this new marketing environment. So there's consumers from their ever-changing preferences, behaviors, and expectations. There are new and disruptive competitors that are in and outside your direct industry. And then there's also interactions using technology and data that will aid personalization and experiences. So the brands are really being forced to adapt to this new marketing environment. And the brands that don't adapt to this are actually going to be risking irrelevancy and failure. So it's really important. But those that are thriving today, they're creating this new experience that removes every single pain point possible from the consumer journey, and it provides an emotional and irrational reason to believe in a brand and its products. So one of the projects for the strategy team this year was to really focus on what the future of retail looks like. And one of the brands that we focused on and we saw was really setting themselves up for success in this future was the Home Depot. And the reason why was because they were really putting consumers at the center of every single thing they did and building consumer experiences. But they also were revamping their omnichannel logistics, revamping their measurement strategy, and focusing on partnerships. And those partnerships were ones that were really infusing innovation into their media plans. And one of those partnerships was with Oath.
So, let me just, before I start, ask, who in the room is familiar with Oath? Not too bad, not too bad. But before we jump in, I'm sure if you haven't heard of the Oath holding company name, I'm sure you've engaged with our brands. If you've ever played Yahoo Fantasy Sports, any fantasy sports fans in the room? Okay, quite a few. If you've ever read an article on Huffington Post, AOL, MSN, these are all consumer properties that Oath has in their group. The second thing, from a B2B perspective, if you've worked with our Brightroll DSP or the Gemini search and native platform, you know who Oath is. Oath is a holding company of brands in the Verizon family with a mission that's really creating brands that people love. Now, my job is to take emerging technology and create experiences that people love. So when Home Depot came to us with a challenge around a very cluttered holiday season, we were really excited because we had already been testing this technology in augmented reality, and we knew that they had 3 specific goals that they wanted to achieve. 1, elevate the consumer experience. For those of you that have worked with Home Depot, you probably know that this is the #1 thing in their DNA. Whether they're in their store, with their marketing campaigns, they really want to uplift how consumers are engaging with their brand as they're shopping. Second, break through the clutter. holiday timing is tough. It's tough to get noticed. We know how ad blindness comes in, especially when we've got more coming at us. And the last thing was really driving positive engagement with the brand. So as we jump in, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we did. And rather than just leave some slides, I'm going to put myself out there, and we're actually going to get on the screen here and demo for you.
So please no one text him right now.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're seeing here on the right is my Yahoo Mail inbox, right? And at the top of this inbox is this native ad, which you can see at the top. It says the Home Depot. If I pull down, that little AR box is moving. If I push up, you see a little Christmas tree. This is the way that we are really creating a scalable, and quite frankly, the first scalable augmented reality ad in the industry. So when I click into this box, it brings me to a screen that's really educational. Because we know that a lot of people are experiencing augmented reality for the first time. We want to make sure they understand what they're getting into. And when I go into that, this is when it gets fun. It's going to ask me to find a surface. It's going to give me a target. And then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put a Christmas tree on the stage. So you can see that here, and it's going to give me some instructions. Now I can move this back. You see Andrea, I'm hiding her now.
Yep.
But of course, what's the first thing you want to do? You can't have a blank tree, right? So we put some lights on it. We add some ornaments. And of course, at the end of the day, we add a little tree topper. There we go. Now, one of the things that I always want to point out too is that it's really important to have a high fidelity. So if I get in here, you can actually see the needles, right? That's pretty tough when we're putting something on stage. And what would the holidays be without some snow? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Winter Wonderland. So this is the experience we launched pre-Christmas last year. Now, how do we do that? Well, we had 3 simple ingredients, and we wanted to keep this as simple as possible. The first one is that there was really an inflection point in the industry in September of last year when Apple launched their AR kit. And what that is, it's a native technology that Apple launched that lives in the OS, so on devices, that developers can tap into. We jumped all over that. And the next piece was really taking that technology and finding the right place to launch these ads. And so we thought about our portfolio brands, and we really landed on Yahoo Mail for 2 major reasons. One, we had an install base of just under 70 million app consumers that we could tap into, and we wanted to be able to do some prescriptive targeting. And 2 was that Yahoo Mail is really becoming a commerce environment, right? And we've seen a lot today about how we interact with different sort of mechanisms and how shopping, interactive nature of brands is coming into a lot of different places. Well, Yahoo Mail, just on sort of a statistics basis, 53% of the emails opened in Yahoo Mail are shopping related. And we felt that this lined up really well with what Home Depot wanted to launch, was just sort of this akin to a shopping experience. The last piece, as you saw from that, is that we have to make sure this is quality. We can't put an object out there in a room and then have them come into the store and say, hey man, what you put out there was not the same as what I saw in that 3D model. And so we work with a team internally at Oath called Riot. And if you're not familiar with Riot, it's our in-house studio that focuses in VR, AR, and 3D modeling. So pretty cool stuff there.
That's awesome. So I know that you guys probably have a couple questions, so if it's okay, I'm just going to go ahead and ask for you all. So the first is, this looks like it was a pretty tough experience to build. So how long did it take? I'm assuming 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, actually, this one, from the first brainstorm we had with the Home Depot clients to the launch was only 5 weeks. And that's a timeline that I think we're really trying to pull down as we continue to go through the space.
Okay, and that's really fast. So if you think about it, that's the average rate or so of a typical integrated digital campaign of average type, and this seems much more advanced than that. So that's awesome. So I'm assuming because it was so quick, the Home Depot had to provide to you those 3D assets and really just hand it over to you so you could begin. Is that true?
So that's a really good question, and we certainly do work with brands that have their own 3D models, and in fact we're seeing a lot more brands that are actually digitizing their assets in this way. For this campaign, however, we built that tree in-house. So the Riot Studio that I mentioned, just to take it a level further, a lot of them come from the CG space, the consumer graphics space. Some of them came from DreamWorks. They worked on productions that you might have heard of, like Shrek. and dragons and some of these cool things. So it's really endemic to what they do on a day-to-day basis, and it's really awesome that we have that asset in-house.
So movie makers can make your assets.
That's true.
Kind of incredible. That's awesome. Okay, so that's the creative, but then how did consumers react?
Yeah, we were really elated to see that there was a lot of positive engagement with this. And with this experience, we saw over 2 minutes of engagement time. Now, if I compare that to the average rich media unit of about 13 seconds, we're seeing consumers really stay with this, right? So we know we're onto something when we're producing 9 to 10 times the amount of time on brand.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so once the consumers were engaging, how many of them actually shopped?
Yeah, and of course this is an evolving space, but I think some of the initial metrics we saw were that those that actually placed the object and experienced AR, 12.5% of them converted to the shopping page, so actually drove through to the Home Depot site. So you can see, we're seeing those consumers move through the funnel, which is really exciting as we continue to build this out.
Right, and that's awesome. And I would assume that there were so many more that actually went in store that you're not even including in that.
Well, that's a good segue to our next test. So jump on in, let's test that. We haven't tested that yet, but I think it's a natural function of how do we think about how consumers are going to come into the store.
Definitely. Okay, so was there anything else that you guys deemed successful?
Yeah, some of those things are really the things that you can't take from the campaign, and one of the really exciting things was just the attention we got in the industry around this. So we were fortunate enough to do some press, and the Home Depot was really a great partner to jump in. And this got picked up, and we saw another 22 million earned impressions from this. And I think for me, it was really good testament, both as a publisher and to brands, that there's a real value in stepping into some of these spaces before they're fully developed, and being recognized, with that lift in brand perception and some of those things that we want to be looked at in the industry. And so this was a really positive sentiment that we saw come out of this.
Yeah.
And of course, the next thing is that happy clients are always the best for a Christmas party. So I think Erin and her team at Home Depot and the Cara team that we worked with as well, we're just amazing partners as we're stepping into something very early. And I think everybody on both sides of the table were really just happy with the results that we were already seeing from this execution.
Awesome. Tony, thank you for walking us through that. So also thank you for letting me buy the Christmas sweater that I bought, because I have not worn one
sparkling.
since elementary school, and it's pretty much like what I had in elementary school, so there's that. So will you just take the last couple minutes to walk us through what Oath is working on in terms of AR for the future and what you see the future of AR being?
Absolutely, as long as you guys don't mind me showing a couple more demos. We cool? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I want to start, we've run quite a few other campaigns after that Q4 campaign, and we're really developing out, how do we think about what the consumer wants as they're going through this experience. And one of the campaigns we ran was with Pottery Barn. And Pottery Barn is leaning into this space heavily, and they had a challenge that was, how do I put multiple objects in a unit? Or how do I think about this in a more shoppable nature? So this is really a similar entry, but this allows us to take it sort of a step further, right? So I'm gonna find my space. I'm gonna see, we've got chairs, but I'm gonna add a chair. So I'm gonna throw this one on stage, and you can see sort of the fidelity of the unit. Now with this unit, we actually added a carousel where I can swap out which object I'm looking at. I can go through, I can add a lamp if I want to. And all of these I can place around my living room. So if I wanted to move this over, if I want to spin it, I can do all those things. And I think, again, I'll just get in here because this is always fun, because you can see how granular we're able to get with these. And this is our stance in the industry is that we shouldn't be putting something out there that isn't reflective of your product. And one more thing that I'll show you here is, there is a level of work that's really artistic that goes into this, and you can see the light is following me. Right? Mm-hmm. So I can actually show the shadows, and I can show the grain of the wood when I zoom in there and I zoom back out.
And you can buy easily.
What's that?
You can buy easily. It's just right there.
Yes,
to be able to
and then
click
of course, in all of these, I should have mentioned, of course, is that you can click through and go straight to the store. Now, beyond just the product functionality, at Oath, we're really thinking about how we ingrain this into all of our brands, not just for ads, but also as a content utility, right? We want to make sure that people come to our properties and they expect that they're going to be greeted with some kind of experience in our content, in our ads, so on and so forth. And so there's some other fun things we're doing. People tell me, if we can go back to the phone, people tell me I look a little better in AR. So this is the fun stuff that's coming out, with a little bit more advanced facial recognition. It can see my eyebrows. I'm not very good at doing that, but it's pretty wild that it can actually follow my facial features. And then one other thing, that we're working on, which kind of takes it a step further in more entertainment value, is this idea. Let me go back here, sorry. This idea of taking an object and actually, instead of just placing an object, hold on one second. This is what happens when you do live demos. You're really putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Instead of just placing an object, we're really trying to, find ourselves in creating experiences that go well beyond that object. And what I mean by that is this idea there we go. This idea of portals. So rather than just placing an object, I'm going to place an object. I'm going to look around it. So this is my portal. Where's Andrea? There she is.
Here.
Wave to the camera. But as I step into this, I can actually enter the portal. Right? So I'm going into this space. My cord only goes this far, so I can't take you all the way around. I'm on a leash. But you can see what we can do in really interesting spaces and sort of mixing the realities. If I look back, this is still the reality. You can always come out the windows. But some really cool stuff there.
Awesome.
Now, I think we're coming up to time.
We are. So just real quick, what did you see?
But, I think just a call to arms in this space, because I think it's a really fun space that I get to work in. I'm fortunate. But I think the three things, very simple things that I will say to you is, augmented reality is here. I keep hearing people say, it's coming in the future, it's down there. Like, you need to realize it's here now. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, a lot of brands are leading, the motion in this space. If you look at brands like Pottery Barn, they actually bought an AR agency and they're digitizing all of their assets. So they want you to go to their app and plan out your living room through their app, which is brilliant, right? How do I bring that to you? The second one that I'll just note, because I know a lot of people use it and we heard from Amazon yesterday, if you go to the Amazon app and you click on the camera feature, there's an AR view in there now. And the AR view takes you to a library of 3D assets that you can actually test and demo before you do it. So, encourage you guys to try it now. And then secondly, it's scalable, right? We all have an AR device in our pocket, right? The barrier to entry is kind of over in the sense. Now, the barrier to entry is really, the content has to be produced on it. There have to be experiences that you get there, and that's up to myself and all of us in the room. But the last thing that I'll leave you with is, I've been in mobile for a long time, and people always talk about how small the screen size is, and I get really offended. But this really is, that next phase of this portal to the possible. Although this is being served through your phone, it gives you a much larger canvas to be artistic, to be interesting, and it really creates this endless possibility of the mix of digital and our reality.
Right. And what I'm hearing is, just going back, this is where that emotional and rational connection can meet, and this is really how you can drive an experience and provide a really interesting and new experience to your consumers. So I suggest you jump on the bandwagon, go meet with Tony afterwards. He can show you some other AR tricks that are on his phone that he couldn't show up here that are just awesome. So buy him some drinks and have fun. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.